Knockout legends in the building. Like, comment, and subscribe. So today I want to talk about Eddie Hearn and some comments he makes on Anthony Joshua's mental health in an interview he has 4 seconds out. So I'm going to play the clip and then I'm going to get back into it after. So with no further ado.
Concerning sort of points raised, but some deep topics covered. He talked about bottling up emotions, and he mentioned he was paying sort of £2,000 to go into this dark room for 3 or 4 days for like his mental health. And obviously it's been a rough couple of years for AJ. Has there ever been any stage you've been sort of, not just as his promoter, but as a friend, sort of concerned for his mental well-being?
No, I mean, I've had lots of conversations with him, and I think I don't think people recognise what he's been through as an individual, a normal bloke from an estate in Watford that gets thrown into a fishbowl where the whole world will have an opinion on you, where you can't leave your own house without a million photographers and people trying to stick microphones in your face, and even the public wanting his time and selfies. And because of who he is, he will always give it. You would never see AJ come out of anywhere and go, if there was 50 kids outside a restaurant, he would talk to every one of them. He would sign, and it's like he felt that, I think the pressure was this responsibility to act in a certain way, and even when he did, it wasn't good enough. And then he lost to Andy Ruiz, and everyone just wrote him off and said he was useless. But no one really cares. That's the reality. And what we saw in Saudi Arabia was an implosion of that bottled up pressure, which you talked about. And I think he's been very honest, particularly in that interview and in general. And I think it's great for people to realise that even people like AJ, this mountain of a man, can struggle. And I think he has struggled mentally. And I think he's in a good place now. But I think he's also the guy that's always searching for improvements. So it's not so much of, I have mental health issues. It's how can I improve my mental health? Do you know what I mean? And I think by doing these different experiments, and that's what he's like, not just across that side, but every physical aspect of his training camp. You'll see him he's on Amazon, he's ordering this, and because he's always trying to get the edge. So I think it's really difficult, and I think the public perception is always, AJ, how's he struggling? He's got loads of money. So what? He's like, look at him, he's unbelievable. He's 6'6", he's like built like an Adonis. Doesn't matter. Sometimes what's going on up here is very different, and he's definitely had his struggles, but boxing is definitely something that's kept him in a good place. And I feel like now, that's why I say, he doesn't need to fight, and certainly doesn't need to take a small fight, but he's willing to take a small fight because he's really enjoying his boxing, and he feels like he's getting momentum. He still feels like he's improving, but he still wants the big fights. So, from my side, we always just want him to be happy, and I think he's finding his happiness through boxing at the moment.
To bring it back to boxing for Joshua, are you really considering Manuel Char as an opponent for him?
Not overly. I mean, he's looking for an opponent. He's got the WBA regular title, which we certainly wouldn't be saying Josh was a 3-time world heavyweight champion. Definitely not. But at the same time, if he's going to fight someone in December, I'm not saying it would be Char, but it could be Caballero. It could be Hrgovic or Wilding out of this situation. See what happens. It's not going to be Deontay Wilder, and it's not going to be Andy Ruiz. It probably wouldn't be Zhang. So you have to look at that top 15. So, honestly, we're more on the date than the opponent. Like, he wants to fight in December because in his head, he says, I wanted to fight 3 times in the year. And I said, yeah, but you fought in April. He said, no, I want to fight 3 times in 2023. So he would love to get out in December, and we'll have to keep one eye on the 23rd. Because we just don't know what's going to happen.
Opponent notwithstanding, how likely would you say it is that he is back out in December?
50-50. But if not December, 100% January.
Obviously, the Wilder fight's been sort of talked about all year. Seems to be on the back burner for now. Just a word on Wilder. Obviously, he's boxed 1 round in 2 years. I mean, you would imagine this PBC Showtime situation is not going to get him out any sooner. Just from the outside looking in, I mean, he's not getting any younger. Just the sort of thoughts on the current stand of his career. The Ruiz fight seems to have been a bit of a shambles as well.
Yeah, I felt like Wilder Ruiz should have happened. I felt it was a great fight. I mean, that was ordered, a year ago? One of the problems in boxing is the expectations of fighters is just too much. So when you don't have, PBC don't have broadcast dates at the moment, but regardless of that, you've got to be looking at Deontay Wilder and say, let's go to Alabama, right, where he fills out the stadium, and let's just do a fight. Let's get some momentum, get you knocking someone out. You need to fight physically for your career as well. And he would say, I'll do that, but I want, I don't know, pluck a number out, 5 or 6 million. And you look at the numbers and the number might be 3. And he goes, I'm not fighting for 3 million. It's like, you've got to look at the bigger picture. Like AJ. You know, AJ made very little money to fight Robert Helenius. He was going to make good money to fight Dillian Whyte, and he had to make a decision. Even now, you know, we might look at an opponent that we talked about, and I might say, well, you can do that fight, but it's really not going to hit the numbers that you're used to. It's no problem. I want to fight. I think I'm going to improve. I think it's going to give me momentum, and I think it's going to prepare me for Wilder or for Fury. But those guys, like Ruiz, the same. Like Andy Ruiz should really be boxing 3 or 4 times a year. Take him to LA, maybe do a fight in Mexico. But is he going to fight for 2 or 3 million bucks? Here you go, 2 or 3 million bucks. Oh, waste my time having a training camp for that. Really, then should you be in the sport? That's what you got to ask yourself. Are you in the sport for the right reasons? And that's what gives me a lot of comfort from AJ, that he loves, but he wants to fight. He's not going, oh, mate, I'll tell you what, give me a call if a big one comes up. I'm going on the yacht. He's going, I want to get back in the gym. I want to fight. Get me a date. Whereas the others are just like swanning around. It's mad.
Just last.
So from the clip there, we get a lot of things to unpack. First off, Eddie Hearn talks about, I think it's a men's health interview that Anthony Joshua has. And he talks about how he's been struggling with his mental health. Now, I think this has come into play because obviously with him like showing his fragility in the first Andy Ruiz fight and proving that he was mortal, that actually exposed some chinks in Anthony Joshua's armour. Now, we know Anthony Joshua can be kind of very reserved and he's not really an aggressive person, but he changes when he's in the ring, he switches. But I think his biggest mistake when he took the Jarrell Miller fight was having a late change opponent that he probably didn't do enough homework on. And don't get me wrong, he's the first person that's ever dropped Andy Ruiz. He's never been dropped before. But the thing is, he stayed in the pocket with Andy Ruiz after you dropped him. And if you'd have known and did your research and did your homework, like most boxers do on fighters, you would have realised that he's more dangerous after that sequence where you stay in the pocket with him. Because if you've watched other fights of his, and especially the person that he fought just before he fought Anthony Joshua, I think it's Rudenko. He's a tall fighter and he has an art and a knack of beating taller fighters. He can just beat them into submission, especially up close, because he's got faster hands and because he's in range and he's punching up, they can't really do much unless they spoil and hold and then obviously fight and box from a range. So he learned in his second fight, obviously, and expelled the demons of the first fight, but he had to actually slim down and become more mobile to actually deal with Ruiz. Now, the stick, what he probably got from the public because of the way Andy Ruiz looked and what happened to him, kind of mentally probably got to him. So when Eddie Hearn was talking about, certain aspects of his psyche and how his mental health was affected by certain things, that he's only human. And obviously, people saying, oh, you've got loads of money, you're like an Adonis and this, that and the other, and why would you be feeling like that? Well, when he had the meltdown in Saudi after getting beat by Usyk, it probably brought up that aspect again of obviously falling short, like when he got beat by Ruiz, and the mental scars of that were still fresh and probably still in his mind. So when he lost the first time and then he had the rematch and then lost again, it kind of like cemented in his mind he's not the powerhouse that he once was. So maybe in his own mind he realised that he can't just go in and blast people out, which is what he's been doing and getting away with from since he knocked out Dillian Whyte all the way up until the Andy Ruiz fight. He had to change his tactic and change his style. Now, arguably that version of AJ was a good fighter, but when certain trainers left, and he got left just with Rob McCracken. And Rob McCracken's main focus was on the Olympic Team GB. You knew Anthony Joshua was ill prepared and inadequately trained, so that's why he took on other trainers while still staying loyal to Rob McCracken, because obviously Rob McCracken got him where he got him. But the thing what is actually troubling about it, I don't know why he never stayed with I think it's, what was his name now? What's the trainer's name? It's gonna do me head in this now. I think it's Tony Sims. Yeah, Tony Sims. But anyway, I don't know what happened, why he left, but he actually trained AJ fairly well, and a lot of his aspects and the way AJ fights, he still has those attributes, but they're kind of gone, because obviously with him learning off the other trainer what he had, I forgot the guy's name, but he taught him a little bit more technical stuff and obviously more fluidity and movement kind of stuff, so it kind of made AJ a better boxer. But the thing is he doesn't like fighting close up or in the pocket anymore because of the Ruiz fight. So with the interview exploring his mental psyche, it just goes to show he's not the only one that actually has mental scars, because obviously Fury talks about his own mental health and obviously not being able to box and obviously being banned. That actually contributed to the degrading in his mental health, and obviously then the drinking and then whatever else shows you the decline, and then the eating, the excess, and then bloating and putting on weight. It shows you that certain things are triggers for people when they don't have that stimulus that keeps them on the even keel. So it's the same thing with Joshua. The boxing keeps him on an even keel, but he has to keep winning. And I think because he has to prove himself to the public so much, and what Eddie Hearn was saying is that he likes to always like not let fans down, not let the kids down, and give out interviews, give out signed autographs, and gives people time. That aspect of him being a role model and being a brand ambassador and being the face in a sense of boxing, especially British boxing at the time, it kind of put a lot of pressure on him. And then obviously you've got your sponsors and you've got your brand deals, and you've got to live up to that issue of being that face and being that person and personality. It kind of can become mentally draining. And then obviously you got to deal with people's comments and certain other things and attributes as well. So you're looking for something to give you peace and trying to find any little edge that can help you progress and make you feel better in your boxing. Now, I remember Dillian White poking fun at Anthony Joshua, saying therapeutic use exemption, talking about PEDs. Now, you can get that if you have low testosterone. And from the looks of Joshua when he blows up and then he trims down, if you look at AJ before he turned pro, when he was an amateur in the Olympics, you can see he has that stature, that is athletic, but there wasn't as much muscle mass there. So to blow up and put on a lot of muscle mass, I'm not saying he's took PEDs, but if he does have a TUE, which is a therapeutic use exemption, then you can actually take TRT, which is a hormone replacement therapy for testosterone, which can help you put on muscle. And then obviously the aspect of him pushing a lot of weights, and people call him a bodybuilder, to get to them masses of size naturally in that period of time, to say even just the Dillian White fight where he's a behemoth and he's just pure muscle, almost 18 stone or 18 plus stone of muscle, it's not natural. Now, if he has got a TUE, therapeutic use exemption, then it doesn't really matter, but it's still an artificial source of chemicals to enhance the body. But anyway, that can actually lead to mental health issues if, for example, you have to discontinue using them or lower the dose. So that can affect you mentally. So I'm not saying he has been on them. I'm not saying he was on them, but it could be a contributing factor if we're looking at it in a logical manner, because obviously the fluctuation in weight and size and muscle mass and change, you know, things can affect you mentally as well. So there's that as well. But like when he was saying he just wants to fight, and he always wants to be in the gym and he wants to fight, that's the adrenaline side of things. That's the addiction of boxing. That's the feeling of doing your craft and getting into that mindset state and actually training and feeling that you've accomplished something, because obviously he started late in the game and that has given the impetus to improve himself from every stage that he's boxed at up until now. But like with Eddie talking about other boxers and saying that, you know, they need to lower their expectations when it comes to getting paid and they need to fight more. In an ideal world, that's true, but both the fighters that he's talking about have been ex-world champions, so they command certain amounts of money, and the expectation of certain types of money to fight just anybody or even another former world heavyweight champion, the expectations there that they're going to want a certain amount of money. And I think in a sense both fighters are victim of probably Eddie Hearn himself, so he can't really complain, because when Wilder was offered that eye-watering £120 million deal by DAZN, it was through Eddie Hearn, and obviously his connections of being with DAZN and so forth. That's how he got that money offered to him, and that's through Eddie Hearn. And then obviously with Ruiz, I think for the rematch, I think he got offered, I think it was maybe 9 million. So again, once a fighter's had a certain amount of money, they expect to either make the same amount or a little bit more. So when he was saying that, you know, they need to lower their expectations and Ruiz needs to take 2 million, Ruiz is not going to take 2 million for a fight. Now Joshua can understand the optics, and Joshua is not stupid. He's a businessman and he's probably more susceptible to your logic than they are. So with him accepting less money for the Helenius fight just to get it out to save the show, he was doing Eddie Hearn a favour. Not just that, Dillian White obviously effed them both by obviously popping dirty, so late replacement again, and Joshua did that again, which obviously almost turned out like a bad night's work, even though he knocked the guy out. Again, regardless of if Helenius is supposed to be an easy fight, you can't just fight people in a hat's notice without actually knowing anything about them and not even of studying any tape or even preparing or training for them. It doesn't work like that. Boxing doesn't work like that. So this late replacement business is not a good thing. Not when you're a credible fighter that knows your craft and, how can I put it, has been preparing for a certain type of fighter to just change within a week. It's not really feasible. And I get it. You want to save the show. It's about the money. But sometimes you need to learn a lesson. If you're not ready for that person to fight them, you shouldn't fight them. Whereas if you want to postpone the show or put it back, whatever, and if it's about money, which he says it is, as he has said it before, then fair enough, it's about the money. So you have to take the rough with the smooth. So to cry about your mental health and other things and that, you need to kind of buck up and then forget about that and stop crying about that and just get on with it, because no one's going to give you sympathy, for one, because you were unified heavyweight champion, you were the face of boxing, and you revived heavyweight boxing, and you were a world champion that tried to take on everyone you could take on and travel the world and do that, and you fell short. Now there's nothing wrong with that, but it is what it is. So everyone has mental health problems, everyone has demons that they're dealing with. You just have to overcome them and progress. And I think with him wanting to fight again this time this year, it's a good thing. But if the fights are going to be Ajit Kabiel or lesser opponents than that, then is it more about AJ lining his pockets, or is it more about AJ building his confidence? Is he still gun shy? Is he still dealing with mental scars, or is he still got mental health issues that he needs to overcome? Because Hearn even said there's not going to be no Deontay Wilder fight, there's not going to be no Zhang fight, we're not going to get a Fury fight, we're not going to get probably even Hrgovic or Wallin fight. So who is it that he can fight? Me personally, I wouldn't mind seeing the Joyce fight, because Joyce has been beaten now. That would be a good fight, a good test for AJ to actually, for us to see if he can actually pull himself up and stand to account. You know, yeah, he got beat by Zhang, Joyce, but the fact that they fought before, and I think Joshua's beat him in the amateurs, would be interesting. So that would be a good fight. So remember, you know, there's nothing that's not stopping both of them from fighting. So why not? Styles make fights. So, and it's a credible opponent, and he's only ever been beat by Zhang twice. So why not? Anyway, leave your thoughts in the comment section and tell me if you think that's a good fight, or who should AJ be fighting next. Like, comment and subscribe, and that is another one from Knockout Legends. Peace.